Good morning and welcome to the third episode of Forbes Let's Talk Housing Edition. I am delighted to be joined today by Lyndsay Baxter, a fabulous colleague of mine, Senior Associate in the Housing and Regeneration Property team. So welcome, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So the purpose of these sorts of conversations is to get to know you a little bit more, what makes you tick, sort of what your day-to-day role looks like, and anything else that you want to let us know. So if we start off with perhaps, how long have you been in Forbes for?
At the end of this week, it'll be 7 years.
Goodness
although it feels a lot longer, in a good way, obviously. I've been here forever.
Feels like you're part of the furniture.
It does actually, yeah.
So when did you join Forbes? What sort of role did you sort of come in with?
So I joined as a paralegal, and obviously I've progressed since then over the last 7 years.
And have you always been within the housing property department?
Yeah, apart from when I did a few seats doing my training contract, yeah, it's all been in housing property.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. Well, in terms of, coming in as a paralegal then, what made you choose Forbes?
In all honesty, I just fell into it basically. I did my Masters in LPC while working at my previous job, which wasn't in the legal sector at all.
Okay.
And because I had no experience, I applied for like hundreds of paralegal jobs and just wouldn't get anywhere. Obviously, Forbes gave me a chance, and it's obviously worked out well for us.
Absolutely. I think there's so much focus, isn't there, where you're looking to apply for roles, and it can be a little bit scattergun, but I do, it's certainly from my perspective, you gravitate towards where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's certainly been a fit for you, and you've not looked back.
Yeah, I think everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. So when you were younger then, I know that you didn't do sort of a legal role before you joined here. What was it perhaps when you were little that you would like to be when you were older?
So when I was in high school, what I wanted to do, it's a bit out there, I wanted to work for MI5 and be a spy, gathering information and figuring things out.
Oh wow! So where did that come from? Was that sort of a love of James Bond, or?
I don't know. I just like knowing things and figuring things out. I think that's where that came from, and I sort of like doing that, doing like title investigations, figuring things out where things have gone wrong and things like that, and like rectification of things. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like you've always had that kind of forensic eye for detail, and I think that that sort of crossovers, doesn't it, with this sort of role where you're looking for what's going on, trying to figure out, putting all the pieces together. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a dolphin trainer, so so it was. I mean, I said I wanted to be a marine biologist, but that's because I wanted to swim with dolphins. And then when I decided I wasn't a very good swimmer, that went out the window. So very, very different. So at least you've had that real eye for a long time. Something a little bit more transferable, perhaps, than swimming with dolphins. Absolutely. Well, looking at sort of perhaps your day-to-day role, what motivates you to get up in the morning?
I think I'm quite a self-motivated person, and if something needs doing, it has to be done. I can't sit back and a laid-back person think, oh yeah, I'll get it done when it gets done. I'm just complete opposite to that. So I think that's
bit of a get up and go attitude rather than that can be done, that's a tomorrow job. Yeah,
something needs doing, it gets done.
Well, this is it, and I think it's, and I know from when we've spoken sort of conversationally in the office, you're a very early riser.
Yeah.
What time do you get up in the morning?
It's usually between 4:30 and 5.
4:30 and 5, oh my god. That's a really, really early start for me. That's having to travel sort of somewhere that's miles and miles away from home. But sort of, so if you're getting up at that kind of time in a weekday, maybe give yourself a little bit longer at the weekend. If we talk about your weekday, do you still get up at 4:30, 5 at the weekend?
Yeah, it's a routine now. So I sort of wake up at a similar time. I can sleep in a little bit later, but it's generally the same time.
Oh my goodness. So in terms of your average day then, I know no 2 days are always the same in when you're working as a solicitor, but what would your average sort of day look like?
So the way I tend to work is in the morning I come in, and because it's quite early, there's not many people around, so I get to look at files and do actual file work, and then during 9 to 5 I will deal with emails that come in, whether allocating time to do something later or checking something for junior members of staff. So it's just that do emails during the day and file work in the morning. So it works out quite well. And
so in terms of, I know for people who deal with our teams, there are some clients that cross over between the litigation and the property team. So what would you describe, your role as, if somebody was saying, well, I'd like to sort of do housing, but what would the difference be for property, for example, to the litigation side of things?
I think the property is obviously it's not contentious, so that's the side of it I like, not contentious bit.
You would love a not a fighter.
So I like that side of it. I mean, obviously there's no like deadlines that you would have in litigation, things like that. So it's more of like negotiation to get to a final point of agreeing a document rather than trying to go to court and get things settled a different way.
So do you find that your cases are sort of, you sit with you for longer because they take a lot more sort of consideration and conversation with the other side rather than sort of that quick litigation side of things?
Yeah, they can take quite some time, especially with like some like niggly points that we can't get down to the bottom of and like agree them points. It can take a while, and especially because we deal with developments, sometimes it can take like years for them to be built and actually completion take place. So if I'll sit with us for like a few years sometimes, it depends on how long the build time scale is.
Oh, fantastic. So do you work alongside a lot of big developers, or does it really matter in terms of the scale of the work?
Yeah, some of our clients obviously get the Section 160 units from like the big developers, but then some clients also do with like land acquisition, so we're buying from like a smaller developer and then they're building the plots on the site for them.
Is there any sort of type of elements to your job that you sort of prefer, or is it sort of you enjoy all of the aspects?
I enjoy all aspects of it, but the development side of it is definitely what I enjoy the most. Obviously we deal with like commercial leases as well, so that's fine, but I prefer the development side of it. Okay,
fantastic. Well, in terms of how you work, it's very meticulous. You don't leave a job undone. What is, if that isn't the answer to the question that I'm going to ask, in terms of what perhaps is one of the tools that you carry with you, in your toolkit, no matter the transaction?
So a couple of things that I like doing on files. So especially if it's like a complex matter with different parties involved, I create like a table. So I like all the points that need to be agreed and what needs doing and who's going to be doing them points. So at least then all parties know what needs doing and who's doing it, and then we can just finalise them points, and that once we get all them bottomed out, then that's when we can proceed. So I like having an organisation.
Yes, I think it's really important though, in whatever role, as a solicitor or as a lawyer, that you are organised, and things can come in and change timescales or vary what you were very hoping to be, a nice clear process. But I think being that organised is really very important. So it helps you definitely within your role. Is it something that you discuss with more junior members of staff to give them sort of the tools as well to?
Yeah, obviously I like to make like a precedent table, so then we can everyone can use it then going forward, and also to like make diagrams as well. Sometimes if it's like a complex title and it's like a freehold, leasehold, sub-leasehold, depending like how it all fits together, I can make like a diagram showing how it fits together and like which parts are connected and which ones aren't. So
this is it, and it's so important, isn't it? So it helps you to visualise what you're doing, and I suppose if anyone's assisting you on cases, they know what they're doing and they can sort of use those sorts of tools in their work as well. So it's sort of sharing that sort of expertise and knowledge that I think is really, really, really important. So what is it, perhaps if you had to choose one thing that you like most about your role, what would that be?
I think most thing I like doing is like looking at the titles and investigating the titles and reporting on them and doing then sort of like rectification work. Because a lot of like the stock transfers from the council to the housing associations, because they're such big documents with such large amounts of properties, bits got missed at land registry, so it's a case of like going back and fixing things like that.
So sort of going through the chronology and sort of making sure it all fits so that you can progress for whatever you're doing in your role. That's really, really interesting. And sort of, if we step away from work for a minute, we will come back to it, I'm sure you'd be glad to know. So what do you do outside of work? Sort of relax, or sort of energise yourself outside?
It's a lot of time. I go walking the weekends, to do like the Darwin Tower walk on Saturdays, and then Longridge Fell on Sundays with my dad and brother as well.
So how long are those walks? And we're not talking sort of 10 minute jaunts,
No,
are we?
I think it's about an hour and a half for Darwin Tower, which is really, really steep.
Keeps you fit.
And then Longridge Fell, it's like 2 hours.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's so
And
interesting.
I've signed up to Tough Mudder as well.
Have you? Is this would this be your first one? Oh, I've got a friend that's done it. I think it's one of those things. I mean, I do not have the book, but I think that getting into those sorts of sort of challenging outdoor activities, you can get the book for it. And I think if you're someone who enjoys going outside and sort of having that fresh air, why not throw a bit of mud and water in it?
It's in 2 weeks.
Is it 2 weeks? So how long is? Have you have to train for that? I presume not.
Well, I tell you to. I've been trying to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope I don't embarrass myself when I'm there.
Oh no, I've seen. I don't know whether it's been advertised or whether it's just popped up, and I've seen some people doing it recently, and it looks so exciting. It looks like everybody's really sort of encouraging, and it's a nice community. So yeah, I mean, I'd be the one at the back, as I was with every sort of activity when I was at school, like cross country. I was the last one, but no, it seems like it'd be something to good for you. I mean, it sounds like a really good. She says, having no, I would definitely be the last one to cross the line. So, insofar as sort of downtime, you're obviously walking. Is there anything else that you do? I mean, you're trying to find time, I think, when you're working to have that work-life balance is really important. Are there any other activities that you tend to enjoy doing?
Yeah, so my partner works a lot of like shifts, so when we do get a chance to like date nights and go out for food, we do like Wagamamas.
Oh, our favourite. We have been. Date for us. Oh, fantastic. So do you you prefer going out and eating rather than cooking inside, at home? Or?
Yeah, I don't mind cooking. I think it's like just a bit nicer to go out and just like not to have to think about that and just get some.
It's a treat, isn't it, when you get to go out and spend quality time together? Oh, yes. Right, so if we, come back to work, how do you stay updated with all of the changes? I know that we've had a lot of sort of webinars and articles that we've been producing in the last 12 months or so, I think, because there's been such a change in the housing sector. So how do you sort of stay up to date with those sorts of changes?
So in terms of like property itself, a lot of the laws are quite old, so there's not that many changes apart from the new Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act. And you're just keeping up to date of like when those are coming into enforce. Get regular updates from PLC. And in terms of housing, it's just a case of signing up to like all the different newsletters and like Housing Federation and Capital Funding Guide, just so we're aware of any changes as and when they come in. So then we're on the front step when anything comes in from clients.
Oh, fantastic. So in terms of the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act that you've mentioned, what sort of changes do you think, or are there other pieces of legislation perhaps that's going to change the way that you work, or is it a fairly steady ship that you can see for the next 12 months?
Fairly steady. Obviously we're trying to change leasehold houses to just freehold houses. But I think a lot of that would be like the developers dealing with that before our client buys them. So it shouldn't have too much of an impact, I don't think, for the time being. But it's just changing it to what it should be really, because houses shouldn't be really leasehold unless they necessarily have to be. So,
so in terms of where you see sort of the landscape in the next 12 months, is that sort of the real change that you foresee happening?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest change. Obviously with the election just happening as well, there's been quite a few talks about trying to put a pause on right to buy sales and things like that. So things like that are like on the horizon. But just like keeping up to date with anything that comes in.
Well, one of the questions that I've asked when we've had these conversations is, if you weren't a solicitor, what would you be? Now that may be what you wanted to be when you were younger, but has that changed? So what do you think you may do if you weren't a solicitor?
I don't know. I've put so much time into doing this. I think it'd be a shame not to do this.
Yes.
But obviously I said before that when I was younger I wanted to work for MI5, so...
Always an option, you never know. I think I've got a... actually, my husband wanted to do something similar when he was younger, and I think the process is really, really rigorous. He isn't in MI5. No spoilers. Sadly, nothing. It's not as exciting as that. But I think this is quite a rigorous process. Did you ever look into that process at all?
Yeah, I sort of did. So some applications came up a few years ago.
Okay.
So I sort of looked at like what the requirements were.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them are based in London, for where they head offices. But I think there's some in Manchester as well now. So.
Oh well, you never know. If you one day are not here anymore, you may be saving the world. Oh gosh. Well, I think one of the questions that we've ended these sessions with is if there is one piece of advice that you would give to clients from the outset, or one sort of really key point that you would want to get across, what would that be?
I think I've got 2 points, if that's okay.
We will give you 2.
So I think one of the most important things is for the client to know what the end goal is. Mm-hmm. Depending on what they're going to use the houses for, it depends obviously of certain requirements that we need to do for like the land transaction.
Yeah.
Obviously depending on what funding it is, it'll depend on if we can have leasehold land or not. Mm-hmm. And another point was to get us involved early.
Yes.
So at least then we could be like looking ahead of terms for them and like pointing out things that they might not have thought about, which would affect transactions. At least if we can get in there early, discuss them points with client, it just helps it matter run a bit more smoothly.
Fantastic. Well, Lyndsay, thank you so much for chatting to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.